Alright, so here we have the water temperature sensor right down there. This is the 2-wire coolant temperature sensor that the computer is using to determine the temperature of the water. And what I want to do is be able to use my factory gauge, which right now it's, when you turn the key on, it stays constant. That it's not registering any temperature. So what we want to do is you want to cut the connector off of the green wire, the one that your original sender was using. You can no longer use that original sender off of whatever style engine came out of your truck or whatever vehicle you're using. You got to use either an adapter to get it to fit onto the block, or just cut the wire, cut the connector off, and then use a combination. It's a 3-wire Camaro sender and coolant temperature sensor for the computer. If you notice, the top 2 pins are what the computer uses to adjust the timing, and the one that's on the bottom pin there, that one's used for controlling the actual gauge itself. So these parts, you can get them at Napa, and they also send or sell the 3-wire connector, the plug that goes in there. And all you have to do is get the 2 top pins and connect it to the yellow and black on your harness that you have on your new engine, which in this case it'll be the black and the gray, which are the top 2, and then the one that's by itself is the blue wire, which will be connected to the green wire, and that will give you both. It'll give you your coolant temperature sensor for the computer, and it will give you your sender. So these 2 parts go together. This one will replace the 2-wire that's in the block now, and then we'll just hook up the green wire to this blue wire here. So I'll show you how I connect my wires. Instead of using any type of crimp-on connectors, I use, which I really like, is some flux. Which this flux is pretty dirty from being used quite a bit, but even though it's dirty, you can still use it in combination with the torch and some solder, some electrical solder that has no flux or rosin core, and then it'll make a really good tight connection. And before you actually solder the wires, you want to use some type of a heat shrink tubing that you would put on. I'll show you here in a minute. You just cut a little piece of that will cover whatever the connection is. That way you don't have to use electrical tape. This is actually a better way of sealing the wires so that you don't short anything out. So I'll go ahead and get everything prepared so you guys can see how to make a proper connection there. I'm going to start off by removing your battery cable connector here. Just take it off from the block so you can make some room to get to the actual sensor. This is 2 10mm bolts. Go ahead and remove those first. I went just a little bit further and I took off the 1 nut that holds on the alternator feed wire off, so it just makes it a little easier to get it out of the way. Took that one off, and then the 2 bolts that hold the bracket for the positive battery cable there, just slid it out of the way, and then that exposes your coolant temperature switch. That's coming out next. So just a little update here. I found that the sensor combination sender unit that I had was actually the wrong one. This one here is the correct one, and I found that you have to buy it at any dealership, any Chevy dealership. So basically what you want to do is get this sender, which has a crush ring. Turns out that the other one was too big, and this one comes off of a not a Camaro, but a Firebird, and the part number is 12551708, and it has the correct threads on it. This one here is a 12mm, and it's not pipe thread, it's a metric thread. and it also has the same combination with the two terminals that are on top with the single lower wire that's going to feed your gauge. And I'm also not using the wiring harness that I purchased from Napa. So just a quick update here. This one will work, but in the interest of saving a few bucks, which is in this case $20, I'm going to go ahead and use the same type of connector, and it has the same layout. I have about 4 or 5 of these on hand that I'm going to just use this one. It's for the reservoir tank, for your overflow tank on your for your radiator, and it has the same configuration. If you notice these two here, they have the same configuration. So if you notice there, it's the same wires. So there's no problem as far as the gauge of the wire itself. It shouldn't be any issues, but I don't see why I would use this new harness. I thought it was specific to that sender, but it's not. So this one plugs right in, just like this here, and it makes a good seal. So like I said, I have 4 or 5 of these from, I think the oil pressure switch 3-wire connector will also work. I'm not exactly sure, but this one's for the coolant, the reservoir tank, so I'm just going to use this one. And you're going to use, in this case, the gray and light gray are going to go to your yellow and black on your harness, and then the red will get connected to the green wire. This is what the 2-wire coolant temperature sensor connector looks like. This is just like an oval with a black and yellow. So go ahead and just cut it. I'm just going to cut it here so that I can keep using this one maybe for a later date, hook it up somewhere else, but I don't want to cut it too close to the connector. Here I'll just cut it back about 2 or 3 inches so that I can still use it some other time. You want to strip off about an inch and a half of the insulation. What I did is I grabbed my new pigtail harness and stripped the same length wire insulation off of it, and then twisted it lengthwise, horizontally, so that it doesn't make up that much room. And we'll go ahead and solder the connections. I'm actually going to take them back off again because I forgot to put the shrink wrap, but that's no problem. Alright, so first you grab your shrink wrap, put it over the wire, just like that. And then you get your other 2 wires and you just connect them. I just grab them this way and just twist them on. And do the same for both wires. Just set this aside here, find a way to have it free hanging there. You get your flux. You get a little bit of, get your solder, get a little bit of flux on it like that. And then you get your torch. And you just apply a little bit of heat, and then you'll put your flux on top of it. Just give it a good flick and the excess solder will come off. Alright, so with your wire solder, just put your heat shrink tubing over it so it'll cover the whole joint, and then just give it a good pass over here. You don't want to put the flame directly on it, you just want to use the heat off of it. And then just give it a good pat down. And then you have one more wire. This red wire is a single one that's going to supply. These two that we just put on are for the computer, and then this one will supply your gauge. Okay, so there's my green wire coming. I'm going to go ahead and just route it underneath the steering column, and then I'll be able to zip tie it to the main wiring harness that's coming out of the base here, of the firewall. So I'll just go ahead and solder this one up. I already have my heat shrink tubing in there, so I just got to put a little bit of solder in there and just seal it up. So on this connection here, I forgot to tell you that if you just feel around for any sharp edges, on this one here I have some wires that I didn't completely wrap around. So I'll just grab a pair of pliers and just pinch them down so that it doesn't poke through the heat shrink tubing. Just kind of flatten it down. And then the same process over again. Just get your heat shrink tubing, put it over the joint, and apply a little bit of heat. That's it. So the new sender is in place, and here's what the old one looks like. And it has also that crush sleeve. And then you can tell here that it's just that 2-pin. So go ahead and plug it in and put the battery back on and make sure everything works good. Alright, so here goes the battery cable bracket back in place. We have two 10mm bolts. And the battery feed wire for the alternator. The spark plug wire back in place, number 1 cylinder. And see if it works. So here's the gauge with the key in the on position only. See if we can get some water flowing through there. And it looks like it's slowly starting to creep up. Alright, so it looks like everything turned out alright. Looks like my oil pressure sender is now working good. Water temperature and my volt gauge also is working. The only thing I have left to do is connect the fuel gauge and see where I must have missed one of the wires. I'm not really sure where. I have to find that one out yet, but looks like it's pretty close there. And then just a quick look at a new application that I have is called Torque, and it's using an OBD2 adapter that connects to the port down below here. I'll show you. And what you're looking at there is the actual adapter that goes in your OBD2 port, and then that's communicating with this old cell phone that I don't use anymore, and just downloaded the Torque application so that you can monitor everything you want. Just run through this so you guys can see. Looks like the coolant's running at 203, and give it a little bit of gas here and you'll notice that the throttle position goes up a little bit there. RPMs work as well. Just run through the screens here so you can see. What I really like about this application is if you have a check engine light, I'm pretty sure I can get it to pop up here. Turn the key off. It should pop up here in a second. Everything has been wired so that if there's any fault codes in the computer, it'll register a check engine light. And it should pop up here in a second. But if you do have a check engine light and you want to scan it, this torque application with the adapter, which is $20 off of eBay, you can monitor what your codes are and you can actually erase them. So that's pretty neat. Anyway, it's hooked up so that the check engine light will come on. It looks like it's going to take a little longer here. But I have it set up so that if there is a check engine light, I just hit fault clear and it'll clear out any codes that are in there. You know, actually go in there and check all those codes and see what they mean. It has a cool web lookup too, so if you don't know what all those codes are. Cool. Thanks for watching.